The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Live tonight from the Homestead Miami Speedway, LSRTV is happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the 2018 Nascar iRacing Pro Series at LSRTV and iRacing Live. Happy to be with you for the third race of 10 on this 2017-18 campaign. Let's go trackside and take a look at tonight's starting grid. As we get set for 200 miles, Keegan Leahy will start tonight on a pole position with a 28.405, and will be joined on the front row by Brian Blackford. Colton Davis, Jesse Schwartz, Justin Bolton through 5th, with Garrett Lowe, Brad Davies, Casey Kerwin, Michael Garuglia, and Stephen Wilson through P10.
Kevin King in 11th spot. 12th place, Caleb Eisenhower. 13th goes to Case LaJoy. 14th, Dallas Patska. 15th, Brandon Pipgrass. 16th, Tyler Laughlin. 17th, Blade Witt. 18th goes to Nicholas Shelton, 19th Glenn Rockenfeller Jr., and 20th Jeremy B. Davis.
Rest of the starting order going to go across your screen. We're happy that you're with us tonight at LSRTV and iRacing Live. Myself, Evan Pasoko, topside tonight with Josh Chid, and as always, downstairs is the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza, twisted and tweaking the dials and bringing us to you this evening. Coming off of a race at Phoenix International Raceway a week ago where Nicholas Shelton took home the win and went to the lead in the championship. We'll see who gets the win tonight from Homestead as we go green for 134 laps of action in the Sunshine State.
All clean into turn one, a little bit of double file from 4th place on back, but no one really getting into it yet.
14 way up there. Schwartz had the start on the outside of row number 2. Didn't really drop anything yet, but it's Garrett Lowe and the 3 machine of Casey Kerwin trying to go up at the inside of the racetrack. What makes Homestead Miami Speedway such a fun track is that progressive banking, and already slotted off of the corner as Lowe slides up in front to take away what's going to be P4.
We're going to see a lot more of that tonight too. Multiple grooves. People are going to be running big arcs, trying to do slide jobs on the exits. You saw it right there. Jesse Schwartz got it pretty bad on the exit of 4 from Garrett Lowe.
And it's exactly what we expect out of this 1.5 mile racetrack, unlike any other, though, intermediate track that we'll have on the calendar. I just wasn't expecting it to come 2.25 miles into this race, but obviously early in these things, you talk about guys maybe qualified what their car has at race pace. You want to balance things out a little bit, and it's what makes the starts of these races so exciting. Everybody kind of has to find where they belong, if you will. We've single filed things out, top 10, not a lot of separation, though, still bumper to bumper. You have to go outside the top 10 to find the side-by-side.
Well, actually, Justin Bolton's making a move on Jesse Schwartz for 6th place now. We're in the inside. They're pretty tight through there, but it looks like Bolton might get it done. Still a little bit sideways on the exit, though.
Now that 39 machine is right there stacked up behind Brad Davies. Had an option, could have gone low, trying to make it 3 wide, decided maybe not the best decision to make this early on, so he'll stay in line behind the 6 of Bolton, maybe kind of giving his credence that, hey, inside maybe the better place to be at the moment, does not want to get up behind Schwartz, and I think now, as Bolton pulls down the back straightaway, he will now clear in that fight for P6, which 39 now cycles to the inside, and Schwartz has to deal with another challenger.
Yeah, a good run for Brad Davies to start tonight. Having a kind of a classic Brad Davies run, looking like his championship form from a few years ago. Hopefully runs pretty well tonight. Pretty sideways underneath the 14, though. That's pretty close.
A lot of that already. The 10 trying to get into the picture. That's Stephen Wilson up 1 spot from where he started, trying to maybe snatch away P8 from Schwartz, but after that 14 got kind of pinned up at the outside of the racetrack, got passed by both the 6 and the 39, trying to find a spotted line. 10 looking inside, not going to happen this time through. 5 laps complete from Homestead. Again, a long way to go tonight as a green flag run starts to open this race out. Keegan Leahy, pole sitter, still out in front by 0.6 of a second. second, to Ryan Blackford, who started at P2, and Colton Davis, who started third, still runs there as well. But the big movers on that start was Garrett Lowe, Casey Kerwin, 6th to 4th and 8th to 5th respectively. So the bigger movers inside of the top 10.
And something interesting to keep it noted right now is Keegan Leahy is running a lot higher up the track than anyone else behind him right now. He's pulled about a 7/10 of a second gap and is still making more time. Brian Blackford just went up to run that line, but no one else is really running that. The farthest back you can find someone is Nicholas Shelton in 13th, and he almost hit the wall out of 2.
It'll be a while until we really start to see it, but as this race begins to work in and you get more and more laps, at least till we get through the first couple of cycles of pit service, more so for tires than fuel at a place like this Homestead Miami Speedway, you will start to see that line get rubbered in, and you would imagine the driver will then start to widen that groove out progressively, start to be able to use more and more of the racetrack, and start to head up and up towards the outside retaining wall. But things relatively civil so far. Seen a couple of good side-by-side battles. Right now, a fight for 11th position, it looks like. Kevin King, 7, and the 2 of Nicholas Shelton. Noted Shelton, your winner from Phoenix just 1 week ago, put him to the lead in the championship ahead of Casey Kerwin, who is the other top split winner so far this season. They run 1-2 in the points. Again, top 10 get that automatic ticket into the 2018 NASCAR Peak Free Series. But that 2 started mid-pack in this race, already +6, kind of in a log jam here though, just on the doorstep at the top 10. That 7 to King is not going to give this one up without a fight.
Kevin King doesn't give up easily, and it's still early in the race, so he's going to be a little bit more conservative with how he races everyone, but he's definitely not going to just let Nicholas through. He's going to make him work for it a little bit. It looks like Nick might clear him next time out of 2. Depending on the run the 35 gets, if he can try and get a slide in, but he's kind of trapped behind the 35. There he goes. He got past Kevin finally.
And so the 35 slides down in front, and these two drivers now behind, they're able to kind of fight it out amongst themselves. There's no doubt that because you're really stacked in right behind those 3 cars in line, the 14, the 10, and the 35, it's almost like a 5-6 car battle in here besides just those top 2, because again, we saw up top, at least, when Schwartz got pinned topside, a bunch of cars came to the bottom of the racetrack. It took a little bit of time to kind of get his footing back and recover some, so I think it's important to try to protect what you have. I thought Shelton was going to get it that time. He did clear the 7 in the center, but that top side, 20 degrees of banking, gives Kevin King a little bit of life left. He has a nose there, not expecting though that 7 to be able to hang on for much longer. Shelton a little bit better on the inside, and he might finally get the job done this time at a 4. Not gonna be able to though. That's 7. Pesky topside.
Yeah, Kevin's really good in 1 and 2. He's not quite as good in 3 and 4, but just enough to be able to hang on. I think he just let Nick go to just try and run in behind him for a little bit. But he was hanging on the right rear for a while in 1 and 2 on Nicholas.
One fight ends, another one gets added. How about 4th position? Garrett Lowe under attack by Brad Davies in the number 39, fastest earlier tonight. In the warm-up session with the 29.701, goes low with a racetrack, a little bit slow off the corner, but he slides up into the lane of the 1, and he will take away that position, so +3 on the evening for Brad Davies making moves inside of the top 5.
That's a good start for Brad. You see him moving up towards the wall, kind of running more of that line that Keegan Leahy was running earlier. I think we're going to start seeing everyone kind of move up that way. And as that happens, you're going to see guys start dropping back to the bottom, too, to try and find some cooler racetrack.
I think that might just about do it for side-by-side inside of the top 10. The 7 of Kevin King still has his hands full back there, kind of like what I was talking about with Schwartz. One car gets to your inside, there's a couple of them. It was the 30 at a Pipgrass who was on the bottom and actually had pretty good positioning. It is slip able forward down in turn 4, but a little bit of a slow exit in favor of King, and now they cross each other over. So the 38 couldn't get the job done topside, goes to the outside of the racetrack and now gets it. So the 38 machine, a Pipgrass moving forward. And now a lot going on really outside of the top 10. I think the highly dense populated area of the racetrack right now where fights every which way.
Yeah, no one's really getting away from everyone. I think everyone's kind of waiting for the tire fall off to kick in now. About another 5-10 laps, we'll really see everyone kind of separate and who's going to wear out their tires more, who's not getting that same fall off. You'll see the times drop off by about another second. And then you have pit strategy start coming in where do you short stop? Do you take those tires earlier, or do you let it run out and hope there's not a yellow?
Once we get into the later portions of this run, as you don't know, 15 laps complete, we are going to start to see who's kind of has a better balance in that car. More fighting inside of the top 5. Once again, Garrett Lowe finds himself under attack in the number 1 Chevrolet, this time courtesy of the 6 car, Justin Bolton. Very similar move as to what we saw Davies do just a couple of laps ago for what was 4th. Lowe now loses that position, falling to 6th spot. Justin Bolton gets back to where he started P5 after a little bit of a slow start out of the gates.
Yeah, I think Justin's going to start kind of running up a little bit farther. Had a little bit of a slow start, but more than likely the team's set up for a little bit of a longer run. They're starting to run that really high line, both him and Kevin, and it's paying off. He got around Garrett, and I think he's going to go up and run Brad and possibly the top 3 down.
Separation amongst those positions has shuffled up a little bit. The gap for the race lead has grown from 0.6 to 0.8 of a second. Still in favor of the 19 of Keegan Leahy, but Brian Blackford is very much under attack. Colton Davis has closed things down from a couple of car lengths to the back bumper. Follows him into the corner. Both cars go high, but the 29 looks to dip low, center off, and he's going to try to get a nose to the inside. I'm not sure he'll have enough momentum down the relatively long back straightaway at Homestead. Just barely had a nose in there. It's going to be enough, though, to convince Blackford that he has the position, and we'll go side by side for the first time tonight for P2.
And sure enough, as that's happening, Justin Bolton goes around Brad Davies for 4th place. It looked like Colton was getting around him, and I think he just got a little bit of a bad run through 3 and 4. But the lap before, he was 0.2 quicker than Blackford and was on pace with Keegan. So I think he's got pace to go up there and go get the lead. He just has to get around Brian first.
Obviously, the longer, if you are faster than that car in front of you, then, or rather the car, yeah, if you're faster than the car in front of you, obviously it's going to slow you down. If you're stuck behind them, you're going to have to use up more of that race car trying to get around him, and it's also letting Leahy get further and further away. Just since we picked up this fight 3 laps ago, the increase in the intervals between 2nd and 1st position has gone up by 0.3 of a second. So obviously the 29 machine caught up to Blackford relatively quickly, but the 40's using that top side of the racetrack, and I think that's really helping him for the defensive line because it's allowing him to get those big runs off of the corner down the straights, which really puts Davis in a tough position because he doesn't really get full positioning.
Yeah, it's hard to clear someone when they're running the top line. They have so much momentum off the corner that you can't pull up in front of them, or if you do, they can just pull back down on the straightaway and get around you. But in the meantime, as that battling's happening, Justin Bolton is the fastest car on track by about 1.5 tenths over everyone else.
Well, this is really playing into the hands of the 19. If you look any further back, I was expecting more drivers to kind of start to get in this thing and group up. Justin Bolton is starting to now. We mentioned that the number 6 machine had gone from 6th to 4th in the last 5 laps. He's up to P4, as you noted. He is closing in now on the battle for 2nd and 3rd. He's still 7 and now only 0.6 off, but you can really just see on the intervals, if you watch them, it really doesn't look like the 29 struggling that much. It's not like he's diving high and diving low. I think that Davis is trying to be smart about this and not force the issue, but this has really drawn them back off of Leahy and kind of back into the territory of Bolton. Last time by for Colton Davis, a 31.8. It was a 31.6 for Justin Bolton, and the 6 machine's coming quick.
And sure enough, you see him going to the very, very bottom of the track in 3 and 4, trying to get as much cool track as he can. Really digging down there. I mean, he ran another 10th quicker than just about anyone else ahead of him. Keegan Leahy ran a 7.25, Justin Bolton a 7.10, so he's still the fastest car on the track, running a completely different line to everyone else.
And Leahy's lap times up front at 31.7. It means that the fastest car on track is Mr. Justin Bolton, and that's what you kind of figure out when we get 15-20 laps into a run. Is obviously, as we noted, the 6 machine started 5th. We would think the inside of row number 3 would be a good place to start. He did drop, though, 2 positions right out of the gate, maybe conserved a little bit more so than these guys up in front of him, and now he is the driver who is at the advantage. And it is really now not just the 40 and the 29 getting chased down, very much a 3-way battle for 2nd place at the racetrack. You're not missing anything else all the way through 15th position. Still single file. Closest group of cars is right here in the top 5.
Yeah, and we're going to see, I think, as this run goes on, Justin needs to get around these two because Keegan's starting to pull out a lot of a big lead over this pack. He just ran 31.878. Justin's running a 907 behind these guys, and they're almost on 32 flats. And he's going to keep losing that tenth and a half every lap, and that's going to add up pretty big as this race goes on. Meanwhile, Nicholas Shelton around Casey Kerwin for 7th place.
In the last 8 laps, the gap between first and second has more than doubled, going from what was 0.8 of a second to now 1.9 seconds. First and second, and you can see that the 6 machine Justin Bolton may be a lot less patient than the 29 of Colton Davis. The 29 has been working on Blackford for some time now, and the 6 machine strolls up, wasn't able to get around the 29 of Davis the first time, but that second move went down, slid up high, and he goes into P3 and he's got a big run off for the corner. So maybe if you're a little bit quicker than maybe the 29 was to the 40, it might be a little bit easier. We'll see if he can do it. Down to the inside, still keeping that car about a car length off of the inside of the racetrack, but I think Bolton might get this thing. He will slide up and he's clear. New runner in P2, Justin Bolton, showing the 29 of Davis how it's done.
And we might only be 27 laps in, but it's already go time. Assuming we don't have cautions, Justin needs to go and close that gap down. He knows he's got a fast car and he can do it on the track. If cautions come out, fine, that works out for strategy. But if it goes green all the way, he has to go now to try and have a shot to win this race.
Now we'll get an idea of, did he really have to use up that much of that race car? Obviously, he was digging to catch these guys in the first place. He didn't really take that long to get around them. It was an impressive maneuver, and you can see down the back straightaway, the 6 just pulling on the 40. Meanwhile, I'm not sure if Davis has kind of given up on Blackford for the time being or what, but while that battle was going on for what was second and third about 5 laps ago, the 29 was really just kind of following the 40 up on the outside of the racetrack. It's that a lot more aggressive attack from Bolton to the bottom that moved him into P2. He was fastest last time by, not gonna matter. Caution flag for the first time tonight at lap number 29.
Trouble out of turn 4. Ryan Doucette got turned by Chad Coleman, and then everyone just kind of piled up on the front stretch behind them. Excuse me, they got turned by the 5 of James Carl.
Yeah, we were just talking about what might happen. Do we see a yellow? Does it go green to the end? And you kind of hit the reset button. This was very similar to like groups we've seen all night. They weren't side by side, but it was a couple of cars stacked on top of each other in a fight for 37th position. And the 5 got into the left rear of the number 41 machine, and it was Ryan Doucette who got sent around. The 5, the 18, and then the 12 also kind of get collected in this, and it was a tough break for Coleman. He just simply locked it up to try to avoid the wreck in front and made contact with the inside wall. Wasn't the biggest of hits, but damage is still damage, and I don't want to start your night off with any of that because we'll be coming down pit road with 104 laps to go this time, obviously led by Keegan Leahy, number 1 pit stall, and he will be the first driver in, should be in a good position.
Yeah, I got to make sure you don't speed here, don't miss your box. It's the first stop of the night, so you're going to have a few small jitters getting in your box, but just nice and easy, getting in, point straight, make it a simple time for yourself for the rest of the night. Have a good stop to start.
This Homestead Miami Speedway pit road can be a fun one getting on and off of under green flag conditions. Got the grass to the inside and the outside of the access road on both ends of the racetrack. Not as dicey under yellow flag conditions. We'll see if everybody can obviously get into the box nice and clean. The 19 nice stop. The 40 of Blackford pushed it a little bit more. Came sliding to a stop with 29 of green flag laps complete. You would expect it to be 4 tires and fuel throughout the field. That's the call for the folks up front, and it'll be uncontested off the pit road. The 19 team taking care of work.
Yeah, something interesting to keep note of, there's a lot of cars on this pit road. Nicholas Moore's missed his box and is going to have to come back in again to get full service. He came out in 3rd, but never stopped in the box, so he's going to have to come back in again.
Obviously hurt him very much for those drivers that successfully completed service. It was Leahy, Bolton, and then Davies, Shelton. First couple of cars off of the pit lane. Not a whole lot of shuffling going on up there. And this isn't even a case where, you know, if you're Morse, you can stay out or, you know, just try to hope that the yellow flag could bail you out here. You've gone so long into this run, he's got no choice but to come down and pit. And Sometimes we see, drivers short pit only 10 laps in a run. They come down to the pit lane, and at that point, it's more of a two-tire call. You get this kind of a mistake, which is really what it is, a self-inflicted error. You kind of decide, all right, I'll just fill it up, get 4 tires, and hope to charge from the back. That's not even the case here. Morse is going to be on the same tires as everybody else, and he is going to be way in the back. He didn't make a whole lot of progress to the field. Started this race in 40th position, and was running in 35th at the time. Yellow, he's going to get dropped, kicked right back to where he started for the ensuing restart as the lights go out on top of the iRacing.com pace car.
Now, something to go back to what you were talking about with the pit road, there was actually an incident in the Pro Series 5 years ago. Carson Downs was running, I think, 2nd or 3rd at the time, spun out entering pit road, and it brought out a yellow. We thought his race was over. Well, that worked out to where he actually was able to win the race because people got trapped a lap down. There's a very good chance that you see a situation like that tonight where you have an incident on that pit road access road and it catches people out.
I've seen just about everything at this Homestead Miami Speedway. I've seen cars spin off of pit road on the access road, come up on track, and take out the leaders. It's definitely a place that you can never say never. But the pace car going to go down in first restart on the night. From Homestead, Miami, Florida, green flag flies as we go back underway. 32 of 134 laps complete. And let's take an eye up front, see what happens. Really, 2nd through 4th is where I'm curious. Leahy pulls out through 1 and 2 as we get him up to the gears and up to speed. Bolton into 2nd. Blackford maintains 3rd. And the fight will be for 4th. The 29 Davis trying to defend against Davies, who's coming up the inside.
Yeah, Brad had a pretty strong restart. Colton didn't quite get off the line that well, and he's under attack from Nicholas Shelton as well off 4. I think Nick's got a pretty good car. He was running some of the faster laps in the pack before that yellow came out. Made his way up from 18th all the way up to 6th place now.
Noted that he did start this race at 18th position, but was the 2nd fastest in the warm-up earlier tonight. Second only to, as we already noted as well, Brad Davies. So the two's got some speed. In fact, he is one of, if not the biggest mover so far tonight. He's plus 12. That makes him the biggest mover inside of the top 16 cars on track. Only bigger mover than him is Chad Lawton, who's gone 33rd to 17th position, a little bit further back in the field. But I thought the two all but had that 29 cleared. The last 2 times around, though, Davis has been fighting back.
It looked like he was going to have him, but the track's a little cooled off from this caution period, and everything's kind of reset, so that bottom isn't quite the fastest line right now. Geometrically, the top has more banking, so it's going to be a little bit quicker with that progressive banking, but I think we're going to see in a lap or two Nicholas Shelton get around Colton Davis here.
And with the exception of Davis getting dropped back, the picture up inside of the top 3-4 is the same. It's Leahy out in front, Justin Bolton trying to chase down, Blackford still 3rd, except Davies now fills the role of Davis, as that 39 machine was able to get up in front of the 29 off of the restart. Everybody's still tightly packed, the top 10 within 1.5 seconds of each other. It is a big mess. Back closer to P10. 2 sets of 2x2 coming off of turn number 4. Guest and Eisenhower going at it, and the 7 of King going at it with a 38 machine as well. So a lot of people, again, trying to pick up spots early in this race. Still relatively, I'd say we just broke inside of 100 to go.
Yeah, and sure enough, we see it again. Kevin King is stuck side by side with someone here. Good job for Michael Guest moving up from 22nd to 12th so far in the race. He's made a pretty good big gain so far, trying to get around the 35, but no one's really giving any room yet. It doesn't feel like there's 100 laps to go. It feels like there's more like 10.
I felt that especially on the first lap of this race when we saw guys slide jump at each other at a turn number 2 on the opening lap of this thing. So everybody's still going at it. The 38-14, 2 cars representing the outside of the racetrack. Everybody else kind of tightly packed down in on the bottom. The 35 of Eisenhower, tight that time, guys, really getting all the way up to the fence. I've seen a couple of sparks fly. Not really hard pieces of contact, just a kiss here or there, brushing the wall as they come off of the corner. And these guys are still 2x2 as they were on the restart. I'm really seeing, though, especially in turn 4, guys struggling to keep the car straight off the corner, getting sideways.
Yeah, turn 4 is going to be the harder end of the track for sure. There's a lot more sunlight on it. It's a warmer end of the track. And it seems like the banking just falls away more than it does out of 2. You kind of get through the middle of the corner and you say, okay, you're good. And then you get all the way up to the exit and you go, oh no, the car's not gripping anymore. And there's no real difference in geometry. That's the way it feels.
Meanwhile, fighting going on inside of the top 5. Brian Blackford under attack. That's no strange feeling for him. He's had a target on his bumper often tonight after we saw Davis be able to stay up in front of Shelton. So Blackford 3, Davies 4, Davis 5th. And then Shelton in the number 6 spot right now, all single filed up the 39 right to the bumper. Almost looking like he's trying to keep that nose about a lane higher than the 40 to try to pass him topside, because clearly trying to get around that car on the bottom has not been working. And the 40 doesn't want to give up that lane either. Yeah,
I think Brad wants to get around Brian here pretty quick, but he's going to have his work cut out for him. Brian's a pretty tough cat to get around. And this works out perfectly for Justin Bolton, who kind of seems to be struggling on the shorter run. They're really close out of turn 2, though. Bolton basically kind of waits for 5-6 laps after the restart and then finally gets going pretty quickly. But those first 5-6 laps, he needs everyone to battle around him so he doesn't fall out.
And meanwhile, up front, the topic of conversation as we got onto the longer ends of that opening green flag stint was Justin Bolton chasing Keegan Leahy down. And I hypothesized, maybe Leahy did get a little bit earlier out of the gate. Bolton dropped a couple of spots. Maybe he saved a little bit more. I thought when that 6 machine was able to restart right alongside on the front row that he was going to be able to put up an immediate challenge. But very much like that first run, Leahy, best car on track. He's rocketed to a 1.3 second advantage over Bolton. Now, ask us again in 15-20 laps and we'll let you know the difference if that 6 is really better at hanging onto those tires and making them last a lot longer on a run. But at least out of the gate on this second run of the evening, Leahy even better than he was that first time.
Yeah, Keegan's had a pretty good start to this race. He needs to hold it together and get another win. It would help him a huge bit in the standings. Nicholas Shelton looking at 5th place on Colton Davis, still side by side through 3 and 4. They've been side by side for about a full lap now, and it looks like Nicholas is going to get him, but it's just hard to get a pass clear here on the inside.
You can tell the two, better race car. You can drop back a couple of car lengths, like make a move like that, lose a lot of speed because he exits the corner down low, but he makes it right back up. And on the bottom, he almost gets clear, even if he is better than that 29, though the run on the outside just makes it so difficult. And now in front of them, here comes Brad Davies to the inside, the 39. Going to look low on Blackford. He's been trying to get to the outside of the slip angle forward, but he will go low. Does he slide up? He was hesitant. He was clear for a slim moment, but didn't want to slide all the way up, didn't commit to it, did lead at the line, and we'll see if he can clear this time at 1 and 2 as he again sticks on the inside.
Yeah, that's the difference between 45 laps in the race and 120. I think 120 laps, Brad would have easily slid him and said, okay, have a fun time back there, but it's still early, so you have to take a little bit, but it was close. I think he could have done it.
Was that small? And you could see him thinking about it. The car moved up a little bit, and I think he just kind of cross-checked that mirror a couple of too many times, and at that point, Blackford was at least there. I had about a quarter of a nose on that quarter panel. Kept him honest, but when the 39 went and did the same thing down at the other end of the racetrack, really wasn't a bunch of a hope for Blackford, and Blackford finally goes back 1 spot. He's been very strong in defending that 3rd position for the better part of this night. Now that Davies has been able to get by him, we've also seen Bolton be able to get by Blackford. That was on that earlier run. Blackford started in 2nd, runs in 4th, still doing very well, but you have to wonder if the folks like Davis and Shelton back there 5th and 6th were wondering and watching what that 39 did and might try it for themselves, although they might have to decide amongst themselves first who's going to get at him, because they are still side by side for P5 and 6.
Yeah, they still haven't been able to finish the pass. Oh, he got him though, and we have a caution.
Good timing, because I think it'll give him the position, but the caution flag is out for Jacob Harberts. The number 15 Chevrolet is facing the wrong direction up against the outside of Britannia wall. That's down in turn number 3. We'll get a second look at this one in a moment. On the LSRTV replay, it looks like the 15 Machida Harberts and the 27 of Blade Witt battling for 20th position. And I think the 15 just kind of pushed up a little bit on the 27 on the straight. It bounced Witt off the outside wall, back into him. Harberts gets tagged and goes around. Everybody else, I think, safely was able to dive down to the inside. There was a couple of close calls, but I think that incident going to be relegated to just those 2 with the 2nd yellow flag on the night.
It was a really strange incident. Like, looking at it again, it almost kind of looks like they both just drove into each other on the straightaway, because neither one of them really kept in the straight line. They both just kind of came together into each other.
It wasn't coming off the corner, but it was coming off of the corner. They had just gotten to the flat, but I kind of have to wonder if they were still trying to straighten that wheel out, coming off it, kind of unwinding at a turn number 2, and they also hit each other not perfectly side by side, which I think really upset Witt topside, and that's what led to the incident. Tough break for the cars running 20th and 21st. Yellow flag is back out, though. Second time down to the pit lane. I would expect the strategy call to be the same.
Yeah, it should be everyone on 4 tires. It's not quite short enough of a run for people to start taking 2. Keegan Leahy is going to get out handily in first. Justin Bolton second. Nicholas Shelton in third, though. That is a big change there because he breaks out from behind Davies and Blackford.
It gets both of them. Blackford, I think, is the biggest key that the 2 machine rather wanted to get up and around, because it was just kind of bracing forward. And again, Davies had just gotten around the 40 as well, so plus 2 positions on pit road. Nicholas Shelton gets him, I think, the big winner in this, and because third will line up inside of row 2, he could even find himself in a position to get out right there and challenge Bolton off the restart if that 6 machine doesn't get going as well on the outside of the front row.
Yeah, we've got the 3 strongest cars of the night, it seems like, so far, up in the top 3. So it's going to be fun to see them finally kind of battle and see who's got the short run speed, because we haven't seen them really race. We've seen Bolton versus Leahy on a short run. We haven't seen Shelton up there, too. So basically our 3 fastest cars are right up there. So it'll be fun to watch.
Something else is fun is there's no wasting time tonight. The lights are already back out on top of the pace car, so this race is going to get set to go back into green flag conditions just like that. 0 time being wasted on these cycles. We mentioned it was Leahy, Bolton, Shelton, Blackford, and Davies. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 off of the pit lane. It'll be Davis, Kerwood, Eisenhower, Lowe, and Schwartz through the top 10. Still running with all 43 cars who started this race being scored on the lead lap. Curl, Coleman, and Doucette, the back 3 positions, 41st through 43rd, staying out, I believe, from the pit lane that last time to get away by to get back onto the. We have seen a couple of small incidents this evening. It hasn't taken anybody behind the fence, though. Still a full field, 50 laps complete this time by as we close in on the halfway point tonight from the Homestead Miami Speedway. It's the 3rd race of this 2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series campaign. We have seen 2 different winners in 2 different races so far this year. Kerwood winning in the opener at Texas, Shelton winning at Phoenix a week ago, and Keegan Leahy looking to get race 3. He has not given up the top spot at all tonight, uncontested to now 51 laps as we go back green.
Wow, that was a close restart. Casey Kerwin got inside Brad Davies on the restart. Brad didn't have the greatest restart, and they about hit into turn 1. Everyone kind of made it out in one piece, but it was really close to being a wreck on that restart.
Some separation inside of the top 5. They actually single file out a little bit. I think that kind of attributes to the really good restart that both Leahy and Bolton had on the front row. A little bit tighter behind them. Casey Kerwood finding it with a 35. A Caleb Eisenhower. The 35, try the inside, didn't work. Wants to look to the outside of the racetrack. Not sure he's going to be able to make that line work either, because the one in Garrett Lowe now slots up to the inside of the racetrack. Typically at this point, when you close into the halfway, I expect there to be, 3-4 drivers from outside of the top 10 to have broken their way inside of the top 10 from outside. You've got, Pipgrass gone 15th to 10th, Eisenhower 12th to 8th, and then, of course, Shelton 18th to 3rd. But the core top 10 group really unfathomed so far tonight. All of them still running top 15.
Yeah, no one's really dropped back really far. We haven't seen, I think, a long enough green run to have the tire fall off really come in and see people fall back through the field and people come up. But the cars that have come up have been very, very strong. Brandon Pipgrass running 4th in the standings before this race. So a good effort so far for him tonight.
Taking a look at the battle for P2. Here comes Shelton trying to pick up a 16th position on the evening. He's close into the back of Bolton. Bolton swipes down to the inside of the racetrack. The 2 wants to wind it up top, and even if he's not there on corner exit, he should have a big run down the back straightaway. He does have a little bit of an advantage. They got to tip the cap to Bolton there. Did very good getting off of the corner on the inside of turn number 2 to keep the 2 Shelton behind him honest. And back to what we saw in that first run, the longer they fight for second, the better news it is for Keegan Leahy, who right now sits at a 6/10 and now an 8/10 of a second advantage. Really fast that last lap.
Yeah, by far the fastest car on the track. Over like 2/10 faster than anyone else. The fastest lap outside of him was Nicholas Shelton at 30.363. Keegan Leahy, 30.149. He flies on these short runs.
Really loves that clean air, obviously, up front, and especially off of a restart. The 19 machine seems to think that getting that gap, getting that space at the maybe a little bit of a detriment to the tires is worth it. Another fast lap at a 32.05. That was nearly 3/10 quicker than the 4.95 by Bolton in P2. 6 machine gonna slide high. Here comes Shelton crossing over to the inside. A fantastic move. Nicholas Shelton, race high P2.
I think Justin Bolton acknowledged that Shelton's a little bit faster right now, and he just needs to get in line and hang out until his car kicks back in. He's got Brad Davies behind giving pressure as well now, and the whole pack kind of closing in on them, so they need to get going and run away from this.
Davies still 4th, Blackford in 5th position, but the 40 machine may have opened the floodgates because he is under attack by a couple of cars. Blackford has not been off pace by any stretch of the imagination, but it always seems, I mean, he's only lost 3 spots to be fair, but he's always been playing defense. And now it's the 29 and the 3 on him. Davis and Kerwin trying to get a little bit scrappy with him. Those 3 drivers last time by separated by a mere 1.5 tenths of a second. And now Davis going to go to the inside of Blackford, but I think that 40 has that top lane figured out pretty good as the place to be defensive.
Yeah, it's not like Brian's exactly that far off pace. He might be a 0.5 tenth off, but a 0.5 tenth is huge here. And he's having to play defense because of it, but it's, oh, no one can get around him like this.
And the 0.5 tenth doesn't look big on the stat sheet. Right now only 2.1 seconds off of the race leader, now 2.3. He's still inside of the top 5. The person who really feels that 0.5 tenth of a second is the guy behind him, because you can't get around him. And if he's a 1/10 or a 1.5 slower per lap, he's slower, obviously. It's still not going to be easy to get around him, but at least you have that little bit more of a raw speed advantage to get past him. He is slower, I think, at the moment than Davis, than Kerwin, but it's by such a minuscule amount that for the 29, it's got to be agonizing behind him.
Yeah, it's just such a minuscule difference. That's one of the problems you have when everyone's kind of running at the same speed, is that there's no speed differential. So you can't really pass anyone. You're just kind of sitting there waiting and hoping that they make a mistake. And that's the position kind of everyone in this race is in, because there's not a huge pace difference in this field. You talk about a 1/10 of a second between 1st and 2nd. That's not that big when you consider the gap between them. But everyone else is running within 2/10 of each other.
Battle for the race lead, still 1.6 seconds apart. Monitoring the lap times between Leahy and Shelton. The 19 is still the fastest car on the racetrack. Doing a step just outside of the top 10. Some names we haven't talked all that much about. Michael Guest has gone 22nd to 13th behind the wheel of his number 16 Toyota. He's trying to get another one up on the 28 machine of Michael Garaglia, who has fallen 3 spots from 9th to 12th. You get the likes of Stephen Wilson, who we've talked about. Jesse Schwartz is actually the driver who has lost the most tonight. 14 down 11 positions from where he started.
Yeah, he got pushed up to high side on that initial start, and it's never really quite gone right for him the rest of the race. We see him getting worked on by the 21 of Robbie Rabel, and then behind him is actually Chad Lawton, one of the former champions of this series, who's made his way up from 33rd to 17th now. Behind them, Adam Battlefield. So he's just dropping back. It doesn't quite seem like things are going Jesse's way tonight, but it's definitely not a bad car. He started pretty well.
And I think the speed is obviously in Chad Lawton's car, 6th best at a warm-up, and obviously not the qualifying effort he wanted. The fastest time in warm-up was 3/10 slower than the fastest time in qualifying. You're supposed to pick up in Q. Lawton dropped a 1/10 between warm-up and qualifying, so he obviously has a fast car, but he's trying to work his way through the field. A name that we haven't even said tonight as well, Lawton, Benefield, even Jarl Tien, who is 4th best in the warm-up, but qualified outside of the top 20 and 24th. He's still stuck here mid-pack in P20, also really struggling to get through this dense traffic mid-pack. If you look a little bit in front of him to these guys we were just talking about, the 21 of Rabel, the 14 of Bashida Schwartz as well, they've been 3 wide, probably 2 out of the last 3 laps, so it's obviously quite a log jam in the center of the racetrack here. Speed doesn't do you much good if you're 2-3 3-1 and really fight with each other, because by the time you finally get around 2-3 cars, you've really worked off the tires. Here comes Benefield on that third lane to the inside. Again, these guys are not shying away from the 3-1.
And sure enough, Chad's all the way up on the high side. Just everyone's packed together. Outside of the top, probably about 4 spots, everyone's just running together at the same speed, and there's not enough to really do anything here. Good pass by Chad to get around the 21 there, but everyone's just packed up, and there's nothing you can really do.
The 20 machine trying to navigate through long way up on the outside of the racetrack, thought about diving middle, instead he will stay tucked up behind Schwartz. And there's a lot of this. It's not just these guys around P20. You get a lot of this for about 10th spot. Garrett Lowe, Michael Guest, Kevin King all lined up with another. Of course, there's a lot of fighting going on outside of the top 20, top 25, but you're almost talking about double-digit intervals now between those folks and the race leaders up front. But again, still impressed on the doorstep of the halfway point in this race that's going to come next time around. 43 cars out of 43 still on track, all on the lead lap.
Yeah, it hasn't been a caution-filled race. We saw a few cautions last week at Phoenix, but we're not really seeing that this week, and I think that's played into kind of why everyone's racing as hard as they are now. No one's really packed up on top of each other, and no one's really able to break away with a long green run. No one can make strategy calls with short yellows. Everyone's just kind of stuck in a box, and they have to go.
This time by 67 laps complete. It also means there are 67 laps to go tonight from the Homestead of Miami Speedway. So as we cross the halfway point in tonight's race, let's take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with a professionally sanctioned racing by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. Race leader at the moment is Keegan Leahy, working 1.8 seconds in front of Nicholas Shelton, who runs into number 2 position. Justin Bolton runs in third, with Brad Davies 4th and Brian Blackford in the number 5 position. Colton Davis has slipped a little bit to P6. Brandon Pitgrass race high P7. The driver who started in 15th spot, Casey Kerwin, is 8th. Biggest mover top 10 plus 13 spots is Michael Guest in P9, and Caleb Eisenhower rounds out your top 10. Garrett Lowe just behind in the number 11 spot. He's dropped a few spots from where he started, still hanging top. That's about 4.5 seconds off of the folks up front. Stephen Wilson runs in P12. Adam Benefield just snagged another spot. He is the biggest mover on track at the moment, from 31st to 13th. Kevin King runs in 14th position with Michael Garaglia in 15th. Chad Lawton is 16th. Robbie Vrabel Jr. 17th. Jesse Schwartz at 18th. Brandon Boulos in 19th. And Jarl Tien still stuck right there mid-pack 20th.
21st, Michael J. Johnson. Behind him, 22nd is Jordy Lopez Jr. And then Blake Bryant in 23rd. After that, Patrick Mallett, 24th. Glenn Rockefeller Jr. just going around for 25th on Alex Bergeron, who's 26th now. Nathan Lyon in 28th, and Brad Mahar in 27th now. They're still battling side by side for that spot. Behind them is James Milbacher in the 29th spot, and Dallas Patska in 30th.
Now 10 seconds back, Kane Cook runs in 32nd position. Casey LaJoy is in 33rd. Benjamin Nelson runs 34th. Tyler Laughlin is 35th. With Jake Nichols 36th. Chad Coleman 37th. Ryan Kuhn in 8th. 39th is Blake Witt, and Jeremy B. Davis is 40th position. To round out the field tonight, 41st, Ryan Doucette, 42nd, Nicholas Morse, and 43rd, James Curl. That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. If you go to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws, you can take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. You can get yourself a 1-year iRacing membership for over 50% off the sticker price, or if you just want to give it a try, you can get a 3-month membership for less than $5. You've got those deals. You've got Black Friday deals as well. More information on all of that can be found at iRacing.com and iRacing.com/World World of Outlaws. But as we work into the second half of tonight's Homestead 200, it is all Keegan Leahy out in front. So we'll take this opportunity to step aside, go LSRTV nonstop so you don't miss a moment of the action. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the 2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series on iRacing Live.
When I was 16 years old, I was working at a Goodyear tire store, and my boss actually built an old dirt car, street stock Monte Carlo. Went with him one night, fell in love with it. It was a hell of a race, hell of a party, and a big fight afterwards. I was like, this is it. This is it for me. It wasn't long after that, I was driving an old 78 Camaro out of the weeds at that guy's farm. We pulled that thing out and made a race car out of it, and away we went. You know, I think a driver has more to do with the equation going back and racing dirt, whether it's a modified, a late model. You can do more with the race car. You know, the harder you drive it, a lot of times, the better it goes. You can crawl up on that wheel and feel like you made the difference at the end of the night. Asphalt car, you can't overdrive them. Well, that was the first thing that I had to learn right off the bat is, oh my gosh, I've got to discipline myself, not overdrive this thing, and that's how you get the most out of it. Truth be told, communicating the right information to your crew and your crew chief so they can do their job and make their appropriate adjustments for you to go faster and do your job is probably 90% of the game in our world. I've always loved late models. You know, my dream was to be a late model driver driving for a living across the country like Daryl and Don do that drive for me. I mean, that was, truth be told, that was my dream, you know. I always wanted a semi. I always wanted a stacker trailer with 2 hot rods in it and let's go racing. Let's take off with your buddies and go race and chase that dream. Never in a million years did I think it would turn into a Cup Series, and I actually have an opportunity to own 2 you know, dirt late model teams. When you think of iRacing, you don't think of a video game. It's not. It's way above and beyond any of that. You know, dirt racing changes so much. The track changes so much. Being able to capture that, to, you know, experience all those details that surround dirt racing and make dirt racing what it is what makes iRacing so cool, because they did nail all of that. I knew when they came to our shop and scanned cars and went to the detail of getting that car right, I knew that it was going to be over the top, because it blew my mind just the work that went into making sure the car itself was legit. This sport has been around a long time. The competition can't be replaced, and that's what brings people back to the racetrack week in and week out.
Back live from the Homestead Miami Speedway. You've been watching it with the action on LSRTV nonstop. This is all in a battle for about 13th on back, and almost wrecked it again. More 3 wide as pit stops have started for a couple of cars. We have yet to see everybody rush down pit road, but this is exciting stuff to watch with the 3, the 9, the 1, the 13, and friends.
Yeah, oh, Jarltine in the wall. It's definitely got a little bit heated up in this pack, and they're still running into each other. Jarltine and Michael J. Johnson hit now.
I don't know how they haven't wrecked. It wasn't just then at a turn 4 and turn 1. And again, we saw it on the side-by-side. They were just trying to rack 3, 4 wide, nobody wanting to give an inch, and we were kind of thinking that, hey, when pit stops come around, this is the pack to watch, but it's been the pack to watch regardless, and I think those two most recent scares finally spread each other out a little bit as Johnson gets sideways off the corner, and the 21 powering up the inside. That's what fresh tires look like for Robbie Vrabel.
Yeah, and we finally got in that point in the run where tires really start falling off. Everyone's kind of just squirming around on worn-out tires. We've been running for about 30, 40 laps since the last pit stop, and everyone's struggling on these tires. Meanwhile, Adam Benefiel has run up to 5th place and is flying right now. He is the fastest car on track by about 1/10.
Last time by 2/10, quicker than Keegan Leahy, who has been outright the fastest car on the racetrack. He's also the biggest mover, gone from 31st position to 5th. He's passed 25 cars so far tonight, and he is not all that far off of the bumper of Davies, and then it is a little bit more of a gap, I'd say, from 4th to then 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, where Bolton, Shelton, and race leader Leahy sit respectively, but Benefiel's in a position here to do something, and in fact, we're going to swap out P2, Justin Bolton, fighting and passing Nicholas Shelton.
But it might not matter in a few laps because Benefiel is coming. He ran 3/10 quicker than either of them that last lap. Adam Benefiel might go up and get the lead before pit stops cycle through.
We talk about you need the tires are falling off. Just looking at, Benefiel's wear compared to everybody else. He started a little bit further back than mid-pack. 31st out of 43 cars, was picking up positions, but until the, 10 laps into this run, we were talking about him. He was still in the 20s, so he was passing cars mid-pack. We talked about, sure, it's a difficult thing to do, but I don't know what's happened between now and then, but that 34 team has flipped the switch, and he just disposed of Davies without issue.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. It's the great equalizer. Tire wear. Everyone started burning off their tires, running hard early in that run, and it's come back to bite them as they get late in the run. There's not a caution. They don't have that easy pit stop. So now they have to sit there and tough it out. Meanwhile, Adam Benefiel, easy on his tires, has just rocketed up through because he's taking care of his equipment.
It's what we saw in the first round with Keegan Leahy getting chased down. Ever since then, though, he has been the best car, at least in the group up front, on the short and the long run. The battle for the race lead is the biggest it's been tonight, and we have a caution flag just as drivers started to trickle in and out of pit road.
It took a while, but Casey Kerwin lost it off turn 2, and at the same time, Gerald Tienan got in the right rear of Patrick Mallet, hooked him in the wall. Big wreck. A couple of championship contenders and points runners involved in that one.
I have to wonder if they were at all related, because, I don't know, maybe you saw the car spin it up in front of you and tried to avoid because Kerwin snapped that car back to the right. Maybe the 13 was scared that that car was going to come back up, but that is the yellow, and then contact almost immediately afterwards. Patrick Mallet and Jarl Tien, they get together. A lot of damage on those two cars. The 43 machine also, Jordi Lopez Jr. gets some damage, and this is really going to hurt the guys 34th through 43rd that had already pitted, most notably guys from up front, Jesse Schwartz, Tyler Laughlin, and Dallas Pataska, who were top 15 cars before they decided to come down to the pit lane. No, now they all run outside of the top 35. I do think, though, as race leaders come down to the pit lane, it will be a well-deserved breath for these guys, but we're pitting at lap number 89.
And now that puts us basically right on the edge of the fuel window for making it to the end without a caution. Now, the big question there is if tires end up becoming faster, if you want to make a stop in the middle and get those fresh tires, but it's right on that strategy window of having multiple options, and it's a great time, and I think Nicholas Shelton just beat Keegan Leahy out of the pit road.
The 19 has been picture perfect tonight, but I think he did get him to the yellow line. He beat him, but not to the white line, and Keegan Leahy is going to be forced to drop back behind Leahy, so it's not going to happen, and Shelton, rather, in the 2 machine, beat him to the yellow line, but I think we're racing to the second of those white lines where the green cones are, and at that white line, it was barely in favor of the 19, and that's why the #1 pit stall is so good, specifically on yellow flag pit stops. If that's a green flag pit stop and we're accelerating off to 1 and 2, Shelton passes the 19 on the outside and gets around him, but because they take the scoring at that line, the 19 machine will once again be the control car.
Keegan Leahy got the lead off pit road by 3 inches. That's all it took, but he has the lead, and it's going to help him a huge amount because he needs the short run to get away from the field and just run.
And I would ask the Disco downstairs to confirm this, but I don't think Leahy has not led for any lap tonight. Oftentimes, you know, we see guys up front be dominant, and even sometimes in their yellow flag pit stops when you got a couple of guys staying out or different strategies and such, even though they may not end up restarting up front, you know, the race leader loses a lap led here or there, but I'm fairly confident that Leahy has led all 89 completed laps tonight. So if Shelton would have been able to get by him there, that would have broken that streak. I think that Shelton, obviously in the best place that he can be in this evening, up to P2. It's a race high for him, but we can't forget about Adam Benefield. Shelton has been quick on the long run, though. On that last run, Leahy and Shelton were about even. The 19 was so far in front because he started in a better position and was able to use that clean air to get out in front. But faster than both of them was Benefield by 0.2 of a second. And he's not the only one. I noted that when we were 50 laps into this race, I was surprised we didn't see some bigger movers. They're here now. Because Benefield 31st to 4th, Guest 22nd to 6th, and Chad Lawton 33rd to 8th.
Chad Lawton was another car that was flying to the end of the run. He wasn't quite as fast as Benefield because he was having to deal with a little bit more of that traffic, but Chad was going quick as well. I think you'll see on this run, he'll get in this fight a little bit more because it's go time. There's 40 laps to go, and you can't really afford to give up anything on a run now.
We pace from Homestead. The lights go out on top of the pace car. We have a restart coming up. 91 laps going to be complete. Leave us, as we were noting, just inside of what may be the fuel window. If you really want to stretch it, the tires won't be very happy about it, but I think that pitting on this long of a run, if we were to go from this point to the end, would it give you enough time on those fresh tires to catch back up? So if we stay green, could probably expect these guys to try to stretch it to the end. It would basically be right there, though, with what would have been the longest run we've seen all evening long. I want to remind you that coverage of tonight's NASCAR iRacing Pro Series race from Homestead is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim behind the wheel, on top of the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. 31 laps down, here we go again. Green flag in the air, and not the best of jumps for Shelton. It's Bolton to the inside for P2.
And this is not what Nicholas Shelton wants if he's going to win the race. Chad Lawton around.
And it's a big wreck at turn number 2. The caution flag will fly. We've gotten away with a couple of small ones tonight. That was not one of them.
Not a small one at all. Brian Blackford involved in that one as well. Who else? Eisenhower, Kevin King. There's a lot of cars that were running really well that are involved in that and are going to be out for the night.
Just talked about Lawton, one of the bigger movers tonight. Got inside of the top 10. He wasn't as quick in the center of the quarter as he wanted to be. Got a little bit of a nudge on the left rear quarter panel by Brad Davies, and at that point it was on. A lot of fast cars in this, the 40 right into it, the 7 as well, and that's just the initial contact, especially on a restart, and especially when it starts inside of the top 10. Anything like that is going to be ugly, and that was a lot of cars wrecked down in turn number 2.
Yeah, nothing really Chad could do. He just kind of got running to the back in there, and everyone piled up behind because everyone's packed up, and there was nowhere to go. The whole track was blocked.
And for a race that has seen relatively good average pace on these runs, we haven't really seen a quick caution like that at all. We really haven't seen a big incident at all tonight. It has been a very good race up until about 15, 20 laps ago. We still had everybody on the lead lap. Since that most recent wreck, Tian and Mallet have dropped off of the lead lap, and that kind of broke our streak of having all 43 still in competitiveness in this event. But it's an ugly wreck down in turn number 2, kind of uncharacteristic for what we have seen so far tonight. But when you get late race restarts. I know there's still over 40 laps to go, and I wouldn't necessarily call that crunch time quite yet, but when you get later in these races, past the halfway point, you're no longer counting up, you're starting to count down on the laps. We talked about guys lifting in some of those passes we saw earlier. That's a situation where probably would have lifted earlier in this race, but as you get later on, you try to make that sweeping move to the inside, and if you make that slightest bit of contact on the left rear, there's nothing you can do after that.
Well, I guess based off the amount of contact there just was, you could say that was crunch time, but it's getting late in the race. It's time for everyone to kind of make their moves and get where they need to be, and everyone's going for the same space. People are going to run out of it pretty quick.
We pace, and I was looking up front again. Really, we just took the green flag, so nobody up front decided to come down to the pit lane. Obviously, drivers down pit road getting damaged in that accident. James Curl, Kevin King, just some of the names that are coming down for service, and then maybe some folks towards the back as well, just wanting to come in and top off. If you're only going to have to give up 4 or 5 positions if you're way back there to come down, I would trade those for the 4 tires and fuel, especially because this may be one of the later opportunities to pit, depending on what the strategy play is going to be later on in this race. We have about 40 laps to go in this thing. Any other time in this race, you go 20 laps and get a yellow, everybody else would pit and take 4 tires. If you go 20 laps and then the yellow comes out with 20 laps to go, that, strategy call is not quite as clear-cut as it would typically be. So I don't see any reason for the folks at the back to not come in and top off. The guys up front, though, obviously protecting the track position. Bolton, though, big move there. Up on the inside of row number 2, had a nose in front of Shelton at the time of yellow, so he leapfrogs into P2, kicking Shelton back to 3rd.
Yeah, that was a big move for Bolton there. He needs to get as many spots as he can on these restarts and just hang on. That kind of worked out as an advantage, but kind of didn't at the same time, because now he's going to have even less laps to work with. Kind of a catch-22. Yeah, you gain the spot, but now you're going to have less laps for the long run, and his car is one of the best on the long run, so he's going to have to sit there and really fight. There's some fast cars behind him that he has to hold off.
Looking to see how many laps are going to be left on top of the scoring pylon. This time, bylights on top of the pace car go out. So we will reset with 96 laps complete tonight from Homestead, and it'll put us at a restart with, I think, about 38 laps to go by the time we come by the start-finish line. We've talked a little bit about the championship standings coming into tonight. Again, the 3rd race of this NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. 2 race winners this year, Casey Kerwood at Texas and Nicholas Shelton from Phoenix. In these top split events coming into tonight, Nicholas Shelton topping the championship above Kerwood by 32 points between 1st and 2nd. Jacob Harpert's 3rd, Brandon Pipgrass 4th, Michael Gast 5th, Kevin King 6th, Scott Eckridge 7th, Brad Davies 8th, Keegan Leahy 9th, and Steven Wilson 10 is that top 10 cutoff to get the automatic ticket into next year's NASCAR Peak Anniversary Series. And then the go or go home positions right now, 11th through 20th in the current point standings, are Justin Bolton, Sahil Mustak, Garrett Lowe, David Rattler, Patrick Mallett, Brandon McKissick, Brian Fickle, looks like Will Cooley, John Schweikart, and Ryan Kuhn. To be fair, we're 2 races in of 10, but that's how the championship picture looks coming into tonight from South Florida. Pace car back down. Shortest run on the night came last time. Let's see if we get him 2x2 through turn number 2. Green fly back out, and Leahy really hasn't had to do much tonight to mix it up. He again goes right away, and it works oh so well.
Michael Guest had a little bit of an issue on the restart. Hopefully we can get through turn 1 without me having to stop midway through this time. 3 wide behind Garrett Lowe, Jordy Lopez, and Braden Boulos. Looks like Boulos is going to get both of them off turn 2.
A lot of movement back at about rows 2 and 3 of that restart there. A little bit further up in front of the Donna Boulos. Sue really tight behind the 1 and the 43. Getting awfully close, coming off of the corner, and Donna Boulos really sliding from the bottom of the racetrack to top side, trying to get around Pipgrass into number 38 machine. All of the excitement is going on about Steven Wilson, P6 and back. The top 5 in front of single file.
Yeah, everyone up front kind of just wants to run away and get out of this, but in the middle of the pack, there is a lot of shuffling going on right now. It's go time for them.
39 of Davey is going to go to the outside, try to steal that 6th spot away from Wilson, who started this race and has been inside of the top 10 for most of it. Maybe a little bit of contact. I don't know if they actually got each other or if Wilson just darted down to the left as he saw the 39 coming off the wall. There has been plenty of that tonight, and this isn't the only side-by-side, because behind them you got the 38 of Pipgrass trying to, and I think almost clearing Garrett Lowe. He will now, as the one kind of concedes that position and tucks in line right to the bumper, though. I don't think he was expecting that.
No, it's slide job time. Everyone is trying to get as many spots as they can because they know a yellow is coming. They don't want to be the yellow, but there's a very good chance they could be that yellow with how hard they're racing, especially back from about 13th on back. Everyone is just running different lines all over each other.
One machine still kind of looking to the left rear quarter panel, trying to get in to beat while in front of them. Fight between Adam Benefield and Michael Guest. Benefield, I don't think Benefield's gotten past in about a half hour. He has just been pulling through this field, rocking it up, was so good on the very extreme end of that longest green flag stretch of the night. The car is good on short runs, but it is fantastic on long runs. So he needs to kind of weather this storm now, hope that this thing stays green, and maybe with about 20 laps to go, turn it up a notch, but that 16's not going to make it easy on him, and Davies is right there as well. He hangs on for the moment, wants the 16, though, looking to cross him up.
Yeah, Michael Guest is really looking to get around, and they're wrecking out of turn 4. Big wreck, 15 involved Jacob Hyberts. That's going to shake up the points quite a bit.
Cars dive low and high. It's the number 3 Machida Kerwin who is up against the inside fence. A lot of smoke out from that 3, and that was 3 wide in most definitely not 3 lanes of real estate. We'll take a second look on the LSRTV replay. It was Kerwin on the inside, Harbert's in the middle, the car that you saw, the 15, and then Jordy Lopez in the 43. We have seen 3 wide work, and they went into the corner where 3 wide could have worked, but that 3 machine just kept coming up and up and up, and we've seen that happen. These cars push off the turn, especially when you come in very low and shallow, but there's nothing else the 15 and the 43 could have done there. They just got pinched out of room.
Yep, and it's the same trouble spot you're going to have most of the night. The corner exit, everyone just kind of came together, 3 cars in 2 lanes, really, and they ran out of room. That's 2 of the top 3 in points right there involved in that wreck. And surprisingly, didn't really get anyone else caught up. Everyone behind actually kind of hit the brakes and said, I'm not going to get involved in that. But that's pretty big in the points because that's 2 of our top 3.
The yellow flag is out again, and this could be big in the strategy play. Drivers look like they're headed down to the pit lane, led by Keegan Leahy. We have really only seen 4 tires be the call. This may be the least amount of green flag laps on tires as we've hit the pit lane all night long. Does somebody go 2?
I think someone goes 2. The longest we've gone is about 6-7 laps. So I expect someone from about 7th or 8th on back to take 2 tires.
19's going to have to take that long trip to the very extreme end of the pit lane. It's Leahy, Bolton, Shelton, Davies, Wilson. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The order onto the pit lane. We watch the 19 at the very end of pit road. Right side tire is going to go out first. If you're going to, those are the 2 you wanted. It's going to be 2 tires from the 19. I was expecting somebody back in the pack to go for the 2, and there will be some who do it, but the race leader in this one wants that track position, and Keegan Leahy is going to go 2 tires to stay up front. It was a 4-tire call, though, for Justin Bolton, who comes out in 2nd. That could be huge.
I don't want to say that's a race-losing call, but that's a little questionable with this number of laps to go. I don't know if I would have done that if it was Keegan. There's people like Kane Cook, Alex Bergeron that took 2 tires. I think that's a good call for them because they needed to get track position. But for Keegan, he's had the fastest car, and I don't know if that's the right call.
The 2 cars immediately behind him, who I think even on even tires are a threat. Shelton and Bolton have been all over the 19. The 19 has been, to this point, I think, the best car overall tonight. We've seen other guys in the middle of the pack have better cars at points, but overall, it has been, no doubt, Keegan Leahy's race. We have seen fast drivers who, went on to pick up a lot of time and then find themselves at issues, kind of dropping out of this thing and not being able to put the complete, race together. Benefield, a name who was just up in this mix, he now gets kicked back a couple of spots. He's still 5th, but he's no longer up in the top 3 where he had just snuck into. But Do you think the call for the 19 was more so, I want 2 tires so I can defend? I would rather defend the race lead with a tire disadvantage than attack with an advantage? Or do you think he just thought more people were going to make that call?
I think for sure he thought more people were going to make that call, and it seems a very defensive call. And that, I don't know if that's the way to go about and win a race. You have to go out there and attack. If you're sitting there defending, then it's not going to work out. You're going to be looking in your mirror and you're not going to be doing what you've been doing all night. And what he's been doing all night's been working.
He was well out in front of the exit of the pit lane. There was really nobody anywhere near him. It was quite clear that he was well out in front. The car in front of him on the racetrack right now is Kevin King. That is not for position. King was 2 laps down in the number 7 Simcraft entry. By staying out, he will go from 2 to 1 lap down and will run in the number 36 position. So Keegan Leahy continues to lead every single lap tonight from Homestead Miami Speedway. But lights go out on top of the pace car. And we buckle up to do this again inside of 30 laps to go. That may very well have been the final trip down to the pit lane as well. No doubt that we don't need any more fuel to get to the end. The option's always there every single time we get a yellow. If we expect to get a couple more of them between now and the checkers to come down and get tires, Keegan Leahy really, I think, needs to get that good start, and I think he needs some help from behind, hoping that a fight for second goes on for quite some time to kind of get away from that advantage. The 4 tires are going to be better than the 2 tires over the course of the whole run. But later in the run, the more laps you get on the tires, the less and less that advantage is going to be. If the 6 or the 2 are right on that bumper off of this restart, they are going to be at the best advantage that they've had really all night long, and I think in the best position to kick the 19 off of the top spot.
Yeah, and Keegan needs to get a clean restart here, not spin the tires. It's going to be a little bit more difficult with 2 tires. Those left sides are still going to be hot. You're going to have the same thing on the 22. If they don't get going, it's going to stack the whole pack, and we will see another yellow pretty quick.
Race car to dive down into pit road. 106 laps complete from the Homestead Miami Speedway. Well, something tells me this race is far from over. Keegan Leahy mixes it up that top of the front row. Doesn't go right away. Puts the right foot down and now sets sail to turn number 1. 3 car lengths clear adjusted Bolton for P2. Shelton challenged but hangs on to 3rd.
And now the question is, when does caution come out? Because everyone's racing pretty hard and trying to get as many spots as they can. And this might be Keegan Leahy's best shot here. It's a quick yellow.
And get a couple of those restarts. I don't think that he really wants the 6 knocking on his bumper, but I think he might be in a better position to get these restarts that he has been so masterclass at tonight than having somebody catch him up in a long run. Here's the gap. 3-4 car lengths, but the 19 actually better center off. So the 19 of Leahy is not going to roll over, and he stretches that time in 2.
Yeah, it's working pretty well. It's just going to be a matter of 5 laps from now. How is that working? Especially because we know that Justin Bolton doesn't have the fastest car in the short run. So he's just sitting there kind of hanging on, hoping to hold off Shelton. So if he can hold on for another 5-6 laps, he's going to be in really good shape when Keegan's car starts going off from those left sides.
Side by side behind the top 3 here, Garrett Lowe in the Wannabes sheet on the inside, trying to get around Michael Gass, but most importantly I see is Adam Benefield. That car, again, continues to struggle on the short runs, got 1 spot back, but he fell to 7th. After restarting in 5th, he's back up to P6 at the moment, but the 34 really wanting long runs if he wants a shot at Leahy as well.
Yeah, Adam Benefield isn't exactly the kind of driver that loves short runs. The long run, though, he's really good, and as we saw earlier. But right now, he's just got to sit behind those 2 of Lowe and Guest and just kind of let them figure it out where they're going to go, because right now it's holding them up from the lead.
Just scanning throughout, we're actually single file inside of the top 10. Just behind a fight, Robbie Vrabel Jr. in the 21. The 42 mission of Alex Bergeron is there as well. Somebody else who we haven't talked all that much about, but Bergeron trying to just get inside of the top 10 when it matters the most. And can watch these battles because the gap up front is stable. For the moment, it's a half a second between 1st and 2nd.
And we're also starting to see in the middle of this pack from about 8th on back, there's kind of a train forming behind Kane Cook. No one can really get around him, but everyone's faster, so everyone's just packed up trying to get around him, and those 2 tires are holding on for him right now. Ooh, really close 3 wide. Stephen Wilson and Colton Davis about hit each other in turn 3.
Putting on a machine of, looks like that was Davis who got a little bit sideways coming off of the corner, and You have these battles inside of the top 10 that I want to keep an eye on. Benefield, the 34, trying to get up and around low. That would be for 5th. The 34 really just trying to get back to where he was on the restart in this race, but he's pinned on the inside of the racetrack right now, and the one machine is doing a good job of not letting him swing wide off at the corner to really build up any speed. And in a field with the bobble that time in turn 4 is going to give up a position top side for Pipgrass to take P6.
I think Adam just needs to kind of sit there and chill out for a lap or two, let the tires cool back down, and go and try and make another run on these guys, because Lowe and Guest aren't really that much faster than him, and he just needs to sit there and conserve his stuff until they fall off a tiny bit.
113 laps in the works from Homestead. Next time by, 21 laps to go. In the third race of this NASCAR iRacing Pro Series campaign, Leahy continues to pull away at a tire disadvantage. Not pulling away as quick as he did earlier in the night. At times, this deep into a run, he'd be 1.5 seconds out in front, but 0.8 is a lot more than I thought it would have been with the 2-tire call. Shelton still third, right on the back of Bolton. I'm curious if that Leahy machine gets any further out in front, or even if he just stays that far out in front, if Shelton's going to get impatient here, fight with Bolton. In theory, any sort of a battle for second would hurt both of those cars, or if the two machines willing to sit back for the time being, try to conserve a little bit for the longer end of the run.
I think they both know the position they're in. They know that if they finish here, it's still a really good points night, and it sets them even better for the last week, 6 weeks from now. But at the same time, a race win helps even more with points. So I think they're going to sit here and conserve for a little bit, but when it gets down to those last 5 laps, they need to be right on top of Leahy, and if not, they're going to start battling with each other. They made up quite a bit of ground that time, though.
Rolling through here, you've got Lowe 5th, Pipgrass 6th, Benefield 7th, Davis 8th, Davies 9, and Kane Cook to round out to the top 10. Vrabel still trying to take that final spot away from the number 22 machine, but he has been unable to do so far this evening. And again, if you're just joining us late, pit stops not all that long ago. We are good on fuel to the end. The question is, what effect did the tires have? And we are starting to see that last time by was the first time off of the restart where Keegan Leahy was not faster than Justin Bolton. Bolton quicker just barely by 3/1000ths of a second. That could mean the kind of turning of the tides and the changing of the guard, if you will, here. Keep an eye on those numbers up front at the top of your screen.
Yeah, and one thing to keep note of is if we have a caution here, Keegan Leahy is going to be forced into a box where he has to take 4 tires. He doesn't have that 2-tire option. Everyone else behind him, though, that's taken 4 tires on that last restart is going to have the 2-tire option, and basically he needs it to go green the whole way now. Otherwise, this is going to backfire massively for him.
Shelton's still right there with the 6, and they are starting to close in, though. Now we see a difference in line. Bolton continues to run the same line down towards the inside of the racetrack. Shelton trying to wind things up topside, undoubtedly with a better run that time to turn number 4. But again, I think the smart call is to not fight amongst each other for second position quite yet. But if you're making up time like they are, 2 100ths a lap, 3 100ths a lap, that's good, but that is not good enough. So when do you flip that switch and go for it? Are you still saving, or at this point is Bolton all out?
I think at this point they're starting to go now. Last time by, Shelton was 0.2 faster than Leahy, fastest car on the track by far. And I think he might try and get around Bolton, but either way, they're making up time. They're making up about 1/10 of a lap every time, but here he goes to the inside of Bolton in turn 2, but he's not going to clear him. I think he's just going to run a different line and kind of offset from him, so he's not sitting there behind him and burning off his tires the whole time.
And that's kind of what we saw there. The 2 machine came off for turn 2 side by side with Bolton, but he tucked back in line behind him, not really making it a side by side fight. Now, I'm not sure if it's time to cue the Jaws music yet, but the gap has gone from 0.8 not all that long ago to 0.6 of a second, but is 13 laps enough to make up that time? You have to almost make up a 0.5 per lap to just be able to get to Keegan Leahy. And something tells me even if you can get to that back bumper, he's not going to roll over and just give this thing to you, so you want a couple of laps to be able to work with.
Yep, I think if you have any more than 5 laps to go when you catch him, you're in good shape. Anything less than that, it's going to be hard. especially since he's been running the middle to higher groove on the track. It makes it a lot harder to complete that pass when they have the momentum up there. But they reeled in another 10th that lap. They're right on to him.
The 227 for Leahy, and it was a 119 for Justin Bolton. The two tires were good early in this run. Did Leahy drive it a little bit too hard, though? Trying to get that gap and try to be proactive in his kind of defense here to build a gap. But did that mean that he wore off these tires a little bit too quickly? Because here comes Bolton, and it is by a lot, a 10th and a half that time as he's closing in for the lead and leaving Shelton behind.
Yeah, this is that point in the run where Justin Bolton really has his car kick in. Meanwhile, back in the pack, huge fight for 6th place. Garrett Lowe, Colton Davis, all racing pretty hard around each other, trying to clear each other.
All these drivers still fighting for valuable points. We talk about how in this series as of last year and back to that same format this year with multiple splits of this Pro Series, if you win Split 2, you're getting close to top 10 points in this top split, so they are very valuable points up for grabs for everybody besides those that we were watching for the race lead.
Yeah, that's all the more reason for those top 3 to just kind of settle it easily. You don't have to fight hard. Oh, there he goes. There goes Adam Benefield. That's a caution, and Keegan Leahy did not want that at all because now he's going to be back in this pack.
Yellow flag is out, and that was out of nowhere. I was just kind of thinking, are these guys going to take it easy enough on each other? And that's the second car tonight to get turned courtesy of the nose of Brad Davies, his Ford, or rather his Chevrolet SS nose. The Benefield right on the straightaway wasn't like the last incident, but you lean on the left rear and it just completely disposed of the 34 machine. And Benefield, who was so good all night, worked so hard to get out of the 30s to fight for a spot in top 5. His night will be no more, and it looks like that drivers are going to pit. Now if you go with 2 tires, having made the 2-tire call earlier really put your laps on a big disadvantage compared to those who swapped those out just 10 laps ago. But it looks like all the race leaders going to be coming down. No!
Wow.
Leahy stays out. Bolton is in. Shelton stays out as well. It's a 50-50 split in and out.
There's a lot of cars staying out. I'm surprised by this. I guess
good for the 19.
Yeah, it is. I guess they figured they're going to have about, what, 7-8 laps on the restart? And I guess it kind of does look like they have enough cars to help with it, but wow, that's really risky.
It looked like the 19 was committed to coming down to the pit lane, and I don't know if he was looking in the mirror and saw that there were a good amount of cars that were kind of sticking their nose out to the right-hand side, because the key for staying out to work is you need a buffer between you and the drivers on the fresh tires, and there's more drivers staying out than I thought would. Once Leahy pitted and we saw second place runner come down and pit right behind him, I thought that was it, and that everybody was going to fluctuate down to the pit lane and that Leahy was going to be in a really tough position. But there is a good number of cars that stay out. Now Shelton's still there, but Shelton was nowhere near as fast on that last run, getting late into the run, than Justin Bolton was. Justin Bolton is going to come down to the pit lane under this cycle. The 6 machine took 4 tires last time. He went with just 2 tires this time and is the first car off of pit road, and is going to line up maybe around 10th position or a little bit further back. We'll have to wait till the scoring cycles through this time.
It looks like around 15th. That's a lot of cars.
He's going to be P1 as they come by the stripe. Shelton 2, and it is going to end up being, as we dig down, 15th for Justin Bolton. I don't do math. I'll leave it to you. So 15th position. That's basically mid-pack. Now he's faster than the cars in front of him, probably on even tires. Really going to be faster than them on fresh tires. Do have to kind of preface, it is only 2 tires that he took, but the lefts aren't that old. But 15th is a lot to make up in 8 laps.
This is going to be...
Or less. It's going to be less than 8 laps because we're at 8 to go right now, and the laps are still on the pace car. So you're going to have 7, maybe 6.
I think 6 to go is when we're going to get the green. I mean, this is going to be crazy.
There's other drivers with tires. Michael Guest, Colton Davis, Kane Cook. It's 15th on back with the fresh tires sit, but Keegan Leahy still has the worst tires out of anybody now because he went 2. I would say the majority of those running 2nd through 14th had taken 4 tires the last time down pit road, and then you got fresh 2 and fresh 4 from 15th on back, so you're trying to win this race with the worst tires out of anybody. But I almost think his odds are better now than they were before the yellow came out, because it's not impossible. If you just look at distance-wise, as the lights go out on top of the pace car and we get 1 to go to the restart, it's not impossible to come from, row 7 or row 8. It's not a lot in distance, but it's going to be time-consuming passing those cars. I think that Leahy, if he gets a good start, is in a pretty good spot. But watch right in around 15th in that row 8 on the restart, because it is going to be a mess. You're going to have guys going 3-4 wide, and no one is going to be given anything at this point. It's a whole take.
Yeah, Leahy was kind of in a box with strategy, because if he came in, he was going to have to take 4 because those left sides were about 10 laps older. But now he's in probably the best spot of any of those top 3 from earlier. And another good car got basically eliminated from that, and Benefiel being spun out. So now, really, Leahy just needs to hold on here, because it's going to be chaos behind him. And if he just runs clean laps, he's going to win the race, and it's going to be a big points night for him.
Restart is going to come with 6 laps to go. Still an opportunity for a late race yellow at a restart, but for all intent and purposes, this could be it. Keegan Leahy started on pole position, has led all 128 laps. Can he get the final 6? American Ethanol green flag flies.
And now Bolton needs to start coming through these cars as fast as he can. He's made up 2 on the restart, and he's about to get a few more. Brad Davies up in the wall. No caution, though.
Davies is slow up on the outside. They're 4-5 wide, trying to get around him. I'm not sure how long the middle of the pack is going to survive, but Bolton up to 10th, and he's looking for more. He's working on the inside, but here comes Shelton for the race lead. Watch the 2 to the back bumper, this time at a turn 4.
Everyone's hitting everyone. Justin Bolton is up to 5th place.
5 wide.
They're not done yet. There he goes up into 3rd. He's made it back. Big wreck.
The 14 of Schwartz is going to get turned. He got tagged by Garrett Lowe, and it is an absolute parking lot in turns 1 and 2. Justin Bolton had gotten himself up to 3rd spot, and this yellow might just end this race.
I think that's the end of it, but that was a very optimistic move by Garrett Lowe going into turn 1, a little too low, and caught the 14 of Jesse Schwartz, and that just all went sideways from there.
They were 4 wide in front of him, and he was the 5 wide that I was talking about. All 4 tires on that car were down below the white line, and then there was just no space. The 14, sure, the 14 pinched him. Yes, technically Garrett Lowe had the line, but I don't think the one was going to be able to make that corner at that speed down that low. We've seen drivers struggle with the push basically all night long. And, I mean, you want to talk about the extreme of entering shallow. There was no arc into the corner for the 1 car.
Yeah, it's a very desperate move from someone who's running 13th in the points entering tonight. He didn't need to make that move. He was going to gain spots because of the tires, but he just forced the issue, and it was way too much for that.
Well, I think the decision there is he wanted the win instead of the points. If he lifts there, he doesn't have a shot at the win. Now, I think it was going to be a stretch anyways for Garrett Lowe to try to go for the win, considering that he restarted this race in 22nd position. But that was a move to go for the race win. If he lifts, he probably passes all 4 of those cars that were 4 wide in front of him within the next mile and a half, and he gets a top 5 finish in this race based on the tire advantage, and he jumps himself into the top 10 in the points. But I think in the moment, probably not the most strategic decision. Overdrove that car, went for far too much, and instead of accepting the top 5 and taking the points, he wanted to go for the win. He's got a junked race car and will now probably, instead of moving up into the top 10, probably drop it out of the top 20.
Yeah, this is a night that's going to really swing the championship around, and you're going to see a lot of guys fall out. Guys are going to come in the top 10 now. Justin Bolton is for sure going to move up with this 3rd place. There's going to be a lot of movement going on. Nicholas Morris got a 5th place out of nowhere. He was sideways as the caution was coming out. Robbie Varebo got 4th. There's a lot of guys who are going to move up in the standings now, and a lot of guys are going to fall down.
Only opportunity for this race to go back under green flag conditions is if the lights were to go out on top of the pace car now. It would be a one-lap shootout. Across the line, survey says the lights will stay on, and this race will pace to its conclusion. Homestead Miami Speedway, and I'll tell you what, Justin Bolton passed about 13 cars in maybe 2 laps. He was third, and no doubt, if that yellow flag came out, he would have blown by both the 19 and the 2, who even amongst themselves were having a good fight. So Bolton starts to close it on Leahy. With about 10 laps left to go in this race, faster by a tenth to a tenth and a half per lap, yellow flag comes out. Takes the tires, gets mid-pack, rockets up to third. Caution comes out. So if it's not your night, it's not your night. Justin Bolton had a couple of chances at this thing, and the cars just don't line up for him this evening. And Ian Leahy, I think you could argue, deserves this win. Was so good, was, I think, over the course of the night, the best car. Wasn't the best car at the very end. Strategy put Bolton in 2 very good positions, but the stars don't align, if you will, tonight for the 6 team.
Yeah, just things didn't quite work out, but Keegan Leahy ran a great race and did what he needed to. I thought he put himself in a kind of a box with strategy, but everyone else happened to follow what he did, and it worked out perfectly for him. Granted, one more lap of green, and Justin Bolton would have flown by him, but it didn't matter because he did what he needed to hold on for that situation.
And it's a good pickup for him. Nicholas Shelton is also going to have a good night. Yes, I'm sure he would have liked for the final 1.5 miles of this race to go green as we take the white flag, and we'll pace next time by to the checkers. But Shelton's win from 1 week ago put him to the top of the championship standings, above Casey Kerwin by about 32 points. I believe the gap was Kerwin, not the night that he needed tonight. Will finish in 37th position. Leahy's a first-time winner, but coming into tonight, Keegan was 9th in the points. So this will be a great night for the 19 team to solidify themselves a pretty solid foundation in the top 10. But I almost say Nicholas Shelton's the biggest winner out of tonight, because all the folks around him have relatively poor goes at it. Pitgrass, an okay result in 10th position, came into the points at 4th tonight. Michael Guest, a good finish, top 10, came into tonight in 5th in the points. But Shelton's going to be the driver who gains when this thing's all said and done.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement that's going to go on. Jacob Roberts had a rough night. Kevin King had a rough night. Brad Davies had a really rough night. Steven Wilson had a decent finish. Well, actually, no, he didn't. He finished 31st. He was going to have a good finish before that. Garrett Lowe obviously having his issues. Patrick Mallett having issues. There's going to be a lot of movement in these points after tonight.
Keegan Leahy, though, third different driver to take home a checkered flag in 3 races. He is your winner tonight from the Homestead Miami Speedway in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Nicholas Shelton, who comes home in 2nd, will increase his lead in the 2018 championship standings. We'll take this opportunity to step aside one final time, and when we come back to the Sunshine State, hopefully we'll have an opportunity to chat with some of your top finishers tonight and give you a little bit of a preview of what we expect to see next week for round number 4 in Fontana, California. You're watching the 2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series at LSRTV, your home for sim racing. The post-race show from Homestead Miami Speedway is next.
Hi, I'm Ryan Priest. I'm driving the number 20 JGR Toyota Xfinity car this weekend. Really great opportunity here at New Hampshire at my home track. Over the past few weeks, I've been on iRacing, practicing a little bit here and there with the modified and the NASCAR Xfinity car, so it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great tool for me to kind of get used to that stock car body again and be prepared for the race today. Well, yeah, it's a mile long, so the draft kind of plays into effect here with the modifieds. Punches a big hole in the air, and we run restrictor plates, so it makes a big difference. Just really fast, and it's our Daytona, so that's what's great about it, and we have a fast car for tomorrow. I think the biggest thing is they're heavier cars. The tire's a lot different, and the way you go about setting them up is a lot different. They use all 4 tires more than a modified, where we typically drive off the right rear, you know, so. Well, actually, it's funny. I raced NASCAR race in 2003 before iRacing came about, and then when iRacing came about, my friend Kevin Iannarelli, who works at iRacing, kind of told me, hey man, you need to switch over to this. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, this is like real life. So I started using it as a tool of mine to really prepare for modified races, whether it was Stafford or Thompson or Loudon, Bristol. And then obviously the Xfinity Series last year, going to road courses, trying to get laps, and use it as a tool that can get me as prepared as I could be without actually doing it. So it's been great.
We're back live to the Homestead Miami Speedway. A lot of the dust has settled following a wild conclusion to tonight's Homestead 200. 3 weeks now complete into the 2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Happy that you're sticking with us at LSRTV and iRacing Live. It is Evan Pasoko, Josh Chin, topside with you with Cisco Scaramuza downstairs. We will have an opportunity to chat with your top finishers momentarily. First, we'll take a look top to bottom, 10 at a time, at your LSRTV full race results for tonight's top split main event on week number 3. Guy Leahy goes on to lead every single one of the 134 laps tonight to get his first win on the season and to jump up into the top 5 in the championship standings. But Nicholas Shelton, who comes home in second, will increase his championship lead with a good race here tonight. Justin Bolton, a couple of shots at the win, ends up in 3rd position, but it's all said and done. Robbie Vrabel Jr. goes 28th to 4th, but Nicholas Moore's 40th to 5th, the biggest mover, but it's all said and done, plus 35 spots over the course of the evening. Colton Davis just behind them at a number 6 spot, with Michael Guest coming home in 7th. Kane Cook is P8 tonight with Brad Mahar in 9th, and Brandon Pipgrass rounds out your top 10.
Adam Benefield coming back to finish 11th after that late spin. Tyler Laughlin, 12th place. Michael J. Johnson in 13th. 14th goes to Braden Boulos. 15th, Caleb Eisenhower. 16th, Blake Bryant. 17th, Michael Gargua. 18th, Chad Coleman. 19th, Ryan Doucette. And 20th, Ryan Kuhn.
On a couple of cars on the lead lap, and a lot of people reckon out at the end of this thing. Jordy Lopez Jr. limps across the line 21st, with Dallas Pataska in 22nd, Blade Witt 23rd, and Brad Davies rounds through with P4. Benjamin Nelson, first driver, 1 lap down, comes home 25th tonight. James Curl is 2 laps down in 26th, accompanied by 27th place finisher Kevin King. 3 laps down, P28 is Jake Nichols, and 4 laps down, 29th and then 30th, Jeremy B. Davis and Jesse Schwartz.
P31 goes to Steven Wilson. P32, Alex Bergeron. Garrett Lowe finish out in 33rd. James Millacher 34th. Jacob Harbert's 35th after starting the night 3rd in points. And Casey LaJoie 36th. Casey Kerwin came in 2nd in points, 37th. Brian Blackford 38th. Glenn Rockefeller Jr. 39th. And Chad Lund 40th.
And to round out the field tonight, these drivers ranked out a while back in this one. Nathan Lyon comes home in 41st, Jarl Tien in 42nd, and Patrick Mallet in 43rd sits shotgun on the field. That is a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results. Let's go trackside and chat with tonight's race witnesser. We said it earlier, I'll say it again, leading every single one of the 134 laps this evening. Keegan Leahy takes home the checkered flag from the Homestead Miami Speedway. We're trackside with the driver of the 19. Keegan, congratulations on the win. Things in the second half weren't quite as calm or easy as they were in the first half, but at the end of the day, you guys walk away with the checkers in hand.
Yeah, Evan, just last week with my first top 5 and now my first win in this fashion, that feels awesome. I'm so happy. A lot of work went into more of my driving than the setup this week, and I'm really glad it paid off. I assessed what I needed to work on, and I also made sure I avoided my weaknesses, and it paid off really well. I played to my strength of going really fast short run, and somehow I managed to hold on long run and our many green flag runs. And yeah, and the end was a little scary, especially with when I took 2 tires and everyone else took 4. I didn't think I was going to be able to hold on, but I thought that was the smartest decision to make, just from my points racing standpoint. And decisions, whether they were correct or not, it worked out in the end, and I think I'd make the same ones again, and I'm just glad it worked out.
Well, that kind of ties in, with what we were kind of thinking about here topside, because when you went with those 2 tires, I was kind of expecting the guys on 4 to jump on you right away on what ended up being, I guess, the second to last restart in this thing. You guys actually pulled on them to about a second, and then they had the advantage towards the end, so we were thinking maybe the idea for you guys was you might use up the tires a little bit more, but you'd rather get that gap and then work with it. And the yellow kind of bailed you out because you were getting caught, and then, the 4 tires somehow, through the fire and the flames behind, bolted was 3rd by the time the yellow came out in this thing with those fresh tires. It works out for you in the end, but having led, again, every single lap tonight, and for the better part of all of that, being the best car on track by a second or so, did you still think that you were the fastest car come the end of the race, and the only reason those guys were there was because of the discrepancies in the strategy, or did you think that maybe they kind of were able to catch up to you over the course of the 200 miles tonight?
Essentially, Nick Shelton and I had exactly the same tires at the end there, and you saw what he was able to do to me on entry to 1. He didn't try to hit me. He didn't overdrive. He was just that much faster than me. That's all I could do. He ended up getting in my rear end. I don't know if you guys caught that, but that was just simply, I did not have the balance at the end of that run. Just a combination of how my car was set up and the fuel load we were on. I didn't have anything at the end there, and I was not going to hold that lead if that caution didn't come out in that corner. I was more upset about that caution with about 10 to go than I was happy, because I was just hoping to maybe win and at least get that top 3. So I think that the second to last caution was definitely bad for me, but it did work out.
You guys are going to roll into the next race in the calendar from Homestead, but coming off of, as you said, the good result just a week ago, and now backing up that top 5 with a win, definitely going to really, I think, propel yourself right to the doorstep, if not straight into the top 5. The season is still early, and when we went through the championship standings, we told everybody on the broadcast the top 20, but did have to preface, hey, this is 2 weeks in of 10, so there's still a long way to go. 3 down, 7 left on the board, but this great start, I'd say, always better to start hot than start off cold. So what's going to be the mentality going into really the rest of the season now, almost being able to defend this gap that you've been able to pull in these first couple of weeks, but more specifically, immediately next week in Fontana?
Yeah, with my limited experience in these competitive races, actually caring about points, it's definitely a novelty for me to be on the defense, trying to keep a spot rather than trying to play catch up. I'm definitely not going to get complacent, though, because honestly, I haven't been back in the pack yet, like this whole year so far in these 3 races. I think the farthest back I was around 10th. Sometime during Texas, or a few laps during Phoenix, maybe. I haven't had to race many people, honestly, and really there's not much to say about my driving this week because I just ran test laps, basically. It's like practice. So, yeah, it's definitely not going to be as easy if I ever find myself back in the pack in the next few races coming up.
I can report good news that you did better than sneaking into the top 5. You jumped to second in the championship standings out of tonight. We go to a completely different racetrack, though, from anything that we've seen. We've been to a typical mile and a half. We've been to a shorter Phoenix International Raceway, an unconventional mile and a half. This week, we head to Auto Club Speedway. It is going to be the only 2-mile D-shaped oval on the calendar year. What's your confidence level going into that one, and how do you expect to perform?
That's such a unique track that it really depends on how good you set your car up. Also, it's nighttime. I don't think we do any night races on the service at Auto Club besides Pro. I haven't seen it before. And really, it's just going to be who gets their head around the setup more than who's the best at driving the track, because it's just such a setup-dependent track, and you really have to make sure you're good short run and long run. I think I'm a better setup maker than driver, so I'd like to say I'm confident for that race. But like I said, it's such a unique track. I could just miss the setup without realizing it, and it's really hard to tell.
Good news is you guys go in there riding all of the momentum in the world. You're the race winner tonight from the Homestead of Miami Speedway. We'll let you take off. I know it's been a long, hard-fought knot. Before we do, Keegan, the sponsors and the shout-outs makes it happen.
I had Derek Bordeaux on the box tonight. Ryan was helping last week, but he couldn't make it tonight. And I got Chris Shearburn in the Discord too, talking me through the race. And yeah, those 3 guys they're helping me out during these races, and it really does help. It takes a lot of pressure off and keeps me sane during the race.
We appreciate the time post-race here, Keegan. Again, congratulations on the win, and best of luck for the rest of this 2017-18 campaign, and hopefully we'll have opportunities to chat down the road. Good luck next week.
Thanks, Evan. Nice talking to you.
The race winner tonight from the Homestead of Miami Speedway, Keegan Leahy, gets the checkers from Homestead, again leading start to finish 134 laps. I believe coming home, the next driver that we have at least trackside with us may be Robbie Vrabel Jr., who comes home in 4th position, and Josh is with him.
Great run tonight for you. Good finish, all things considered. How did that tire strategy work out for you at the end, though?
I'd say it worked out really good. We ended up coming home with a P4. We're on the same tire cycle as Keegan there, and like he said, just with the fuel load and the wear that we had on it, we were just all over the splitter there in those last few corners. I was just doing everything I could to try to keep heat in it. It wasn't enough, but we made it work, man. Last second, my crew chief, Vince Curry, he saw Keegan stay out, saw a couple others stay out, and yelled at me last second to stay out, and I'm glad he did. Instead of restarting 15th and being in a hole to get involved in some of that stuff, man. We were right up front where we needed to be there at the end, and the car was more than good enough to keep me up there.
How do you feel about your run so far tonight? You moved up from outside the top 25. You're now 25th in points, and you look like you have a pretty good shot at the top 10 after that.
That's huge, man. I've made a couple big mistakes in my first 2 races. Texas I took myself out hitting the wall. Phoenix, I got loose at the wall. You know, just silly mistakes that as a driver you can't make if you want to get into this series. So it was just nice to put a whole run together, and coming from the back too made it even more special to pace myself and finish where we did.
How was it during some of those early green flag runs? You kind of moved your way up through the field. Didn't make a huge run up through, but you gained some spots during those green runs.
It was fun, but at the same time we were just trying to be patient. I knew what we had for a race car, and I didn't want to damage it. I didn't want to get into anybody and hurt it. I think we only gained 5 spots or something like that in the first run, but we were just trying to pick our way through and keep some fenders on it for the end. Like I said, I've had a hard time doing that the last couple of weeks, so it's good to put a full run together. And in the middle part of that race, when the track took rubber and I was able to go a lot harder, we showed what kind of a car we had at that point. We were catching guys from seconds back. When we finally got clean track, I was able to make passes on the bottom when guys were running the top, and I was even able to go to the top and make a few passes myself, so it was a lot of fun. It was a great car. I can't thank everybody at Aero Precision Chassis Works enough for this. Taylor Hurst, Dalton, for all the testing that they've done to help me get as good as I am here and to put me in a position to finish where I did. Also, thanks to Vince Curry for being on the box tonight. It was a lot of fun working with him. Looking forward to Fontana and seeing if we can continue that.
Well, let's hope you keep it up. That's Robbie Vrabel, finished in 5th place tonight.
Thanks, guys.
It's a good result for the driver of the number 21 machine, and I believe we also have now trackside with us the driver of the number 25 machine. Nicholas Moores ends up as the biggest mover on the night, started way back in 40th, and he comes home with the top 5 for trackside with the driver of the 25. Nick, congratulations on the finish. This, typically we ask the questions, but I guess you kind of have to answer this one for us first. How did you guys get up to P5? Because we knew that you were working through traffic. There was a couple of guys back there. Benefiel and Coleman were one of them as well. So there was a couple of you guys working through the pack, but you guys kind of steal a top 5 at the end of this thing.
Well, I don't believe in stealing because that's improper, but I'm definitely happy to get a top 5. I missed qualifying because I was at Walmart, so that was stupid. And then I started last. And then I pitted with 1 to go because I'm also dumb, and then green flew when I was exiting pit road, so I ran the entire race in last place, but my times were comparable to Keegan's. But as you guys know, it's so hard to pass. Everyone was so even tonight. It was really incredible to see how good everyone was through the entire field. And I think I was going to finish about 15th, just coming through the pack, but caution came out with 11 to go. I stayed out, and I got turned there by Colton at the end, but iRacing gave me my spots back, so I'll take it, man. It was just a fortuitous night for me. Definitely didn't deserve a 5th, but I'll take it.
No complaints for sure. This race really had a couple of different, kind of stints in it. You mentioned running towards the back for those green flag stints, and we did see that. 3 points, I think we got about 30-plus laps, and one of those that you were talking about as well, all the way to the point where we started to see cars come down to the pit lane. But then at the end of this thing, as you would kind of tend to expect the way these things tend to trend, a lot of yellows at a lot of restarts, and everybody really just goes after each other late. How'd you kind of make that transition from trying to be a little bit more methodical, knowing the position that you're in, while also knowing that your race car is much better than that, to kind of having to a certain extent, put the strategy behind you and just get the elbows up and race at the end there?
Yeah, well, we built our set for the track fully rubbered up, so even when I was at the start of the race, everyone was faster than me. I was just super loose, but as the track rubbered up and it got slick and tight, that's when I was able to go for it. I know Brad Davies is a great driver. I got into his door there, and it was just kind of one of those things where all right, if I'm not going forward with half the field on fresh tires with 15 to go, I'm definitely going to be going backwards. So Brad didn't protect the middle there. I stuck my nose in it, and right at the last second, I saw Robbie go 4 wide, and it just lucked out, man. I don't say. I should have been in the back, in a pile of trash, but I got 5th, so I'll take it. I'm happy, and happy with the performance.
It'll be big for you. I know that these races obviously count for the same amount of points throughout the year, but they're kind of more impactful on the championship the earlier in the season we are. You guys came into tonight not on the radar in the top 20, and you were going to exit tonight 9th in the championship standings. Some guys have, a week where the luck doesn't go their way. I think a good example of that tonight could be, Justin Bolton. He gets a 3rd place finish, but he was kind of primed to win this thing at 2 times. Yellows don't work out for him. And then you also get weeks where you get the good luck. So I would rather have the good luck first, and now this puts you in a position where you're inside of the top 10 and having a little bit of a slower start that I'm sure you guys would have liked. How do you kind of build upon this and make it a more constructive full race next time out?
Not make stupid mistakes and come home from Walmart sooner. That would be the first thing that I could do. Specs has been incredibly quick. We were kind of a conglomerate of effort at the end of peak last year, and I felt bad for Mitch and Byron because we weren't able to really give them good cars. They were running 30th all race, but we took that downtime, worked really hard on our program, and Mitch is winning 2nd split. Jacob had 2 top 10s. I now have 2 top 10s. And I think Specs is really, really good. We have a lot of peak drivers, a lot of pro drivers, past and present. And if we can just cut out on the mistakes, I think I had a chance for maybe a legit top 5 there instead of luck 1. So certainly happy to be 9th. I thought this was the year that I could make it through, and I'm glad I put 2 good races together. And I just got to get through the end of the drops and not have another mistake, and then I think we'll be on good footing for the rest of the season.
We'll let you take out of here. I know it's been a long night, but we'll give you the opportunity, as always, the sponsors and the shout-outs. Nick, who makes it happen for you and the guys of the team?
Everyone at Specs, if I forget people, I'm sorry. Our spotters, I definitely want to thank Chad Coleman, Harberts, John Berger, Mitchell Hunt, Malik, Scotty, Joey Brown, Charlie Foster. We just have a ton of talent on the team, and we put in a lot of work. So thank you to everyone who's on the team and helping us, and thank you to iRacing for giving us a cool ladder system to try to succeed through.
Fifth place finisher tonight from Homestead, and now 9th in the championship, Nicholas Morse. Nick, thanks for giving us the time. Congratulations on the win. Best of luck to you and the guys going forward. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you.
Let's chat with a couple of your top finishers tonight. Thanks to Keegan Leahy as well, Robbie Vrabel Jr. and Nick Morse for giving us an opportunity to chat post-race. And kind of back to the question that I posed to Nick, Josh, this race had a little bit of everything. We had the long green flag runs, we had the pit strategy, and then we also had those late race shootouts coming to the end of these things, and it's kind of what you expect. Some big wrecks in this thing that we would have liked to not see, and we're still seeing. I think the biggest takeaway I have is the big swing in the points that we see just in these early 3 weeks. Shelton's, coming home in second tonight, puts him almost 200 points out in front of new second-place runner in the championship, Keegan Leahy. Got somebody like a Nick Morse who goes from not even in the top 20 to all of a sudden inside of the top 10. And on the flip side of that, you got guys who came into tonight inside of the top 10 in the points and are now off that radar. That'll start to balance out as the season goes on, but the big swings continue early with a lot of guys having good nights, and I think just as many guys having bad luck. It was Kerwin in Texas, Shelton in Phoenix. Lately tonight, it was Leahy in Homestead. 3 races down and 3 different race winners in this NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Until next time out, though, that wraps things up for us here tonight from Homestead, Florida. It also wraps up our coverage at LSRTV this week. The rest of the week is off for Thanksgiving, so hope everybody enjoys that. And we'll be back with action starting next Monday night with the series debut of the Real Sid Racing Icebreaker Winter Series. You can find out information on that if you want to be a part of it by going to our website at livesidracing.com and looking for the Real Sid Racing tab at the top of your screen. That's also the place to go if you want to get a look at our extended broadcast schedule. But the best way to stay up to date with LSRTV is by keeping up with us on social media. On Twitter, that is at LSRTV, and on Facebook, you can find us by logging on to facebook.com/LSRTV official. Until next time, on behalf of the entire team at Live Sim Racing LLC, for Laura Lawson, DJ Lyon, and everybody else who makes it happen topside in the booth night in and night out, and of course, for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, Josh Chin, and our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Keegan Leahy, finally a winner in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. The championship resumes next Tuesday night, same time, same place, at 9 o'clock Eastern Time at LSRTV at iRacing Live as we head to the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. That race and every race of the 2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series can be found right here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Until next time, good night.